Mrs. Smitty,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. I'm good. I'm really excited for this little podcast today, and yeah, I just really want to thank you for gracing me with the honor of your presence to today.
Yeah. Thank you for the invite.
No, not a problem at all. Yeah, so I guess I frame sort of what I wanted to achieve here today is that I want to start doing some interviews with people on stereo to try and I guess humanize the person from an avatar to an actual person around on the streets, right? I think there's been a little bit of negativity going around on the streets sometimes, and if we can sort of open up the life of a person and get to know them, we can sort of connect a little bit better. So, this is the very, very first episode, and I really had you in mind, and I really appreciate that such sort of last notice being able to accept this invitation to get into it.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it.
Awesome. So, first of all, before we get into it, so it's evening your time over there. It's what about nine
It is. It's
p.m.
about 9
your
p.m.
time?
hmm
Yeah, we're going through a real cold spell today here. We sort of just hit spring yesterday, and
hmm
it's still hailing with hailstones, so it's freezing. But I don't usually get to do podcasts during the day, so this is something a little bit different for me normally. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're based. Look, I'll also say. So I'm going to go into just ask questions, and we'll just chat. And this is all about you, this podcast, and
Sure.
feel free to answer what you want. And if something's personal or uncomfortable, by all means, you don't have to at all. I just thought
Okay,
we'd
great.
we'd open it from the start to the finish. But Mrs. Smitty, this is your life.
Yeah.
So tell me, you're you're based over in the West Coast.
Yeah, I'm in LA.
In LA, okay, okay. I've been to LA
hmm
myself a couple of times to Hollywood and down to San Diego over to Mexico about 12 years ago or so. So seen a little bit of the place. It's pretty cool. I really do
It's
like it
beautiful.
myself. But yeah, all right. So again, I know you should never ask a woman her age, but roughly when were you
I'm
born and where were you raised?
yeah, I would say I'm like a young middle-aged.
Okay.
I'm in my 40s, but not too
Mm-hmm.
far in. And
Mm-hmm.
I was born and raised in Pennsylvania and moved to LA a little over 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
Okay. Okay. So you were born in Pennsylvania and you went to school out there and everything like that. With you had
hmm
both parents around when you were younger.
Just well, I had my mom and my stepdad. Yes.
Your mum and your stepdad. Did you have
hmm
any other siblings as well when you were
I have an
young?
older brother and a younger sister.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, what was school like for you? Did you like school?
I was always like a good student, but kind of a slacker.
Uh huh.
So school was okay for me. I'd probably skipped as much as I attended during certain times. But it was kind of like it was easy, and so I didn't feel like I needed to be there all the time. And
Okay.
so now, as an old woman, I wish I would have sort of applied myself more and done more with it. But I was kind of a slacker, to be honest.
I know what you mean. I'm just turned 40 myself, so school wasn't really. It was. I didn't mind it when I was younger, but I sort of didn't mind it early high school time. But then I went right off it. I think I was trying to chase girls and stuff. By the end of high school, I didn't focus on it. And now that you get to this age, it's information that really interests me myself. I love learning things, particularly at this age. So I do wish I applied myself more to make something different of myself. But nonetheless, I learned other skills from not being at school. I'm sure it's probably the same thing for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so at school, what sort of subjects did you enjoy the most? Where did you flourish? Where did you fail?
Funny enough, I was really good on the debate team.
Okay.
Um, I really, uh, I really excelled in sort of like English and civics and uh, geography. Weirdly, um, but I'm terrible at math.
Terrible at maths, yeah. Okay.
Terrible
I'm
at
probably a
math.
little
Yeah.
bit the opposite to that. I'm
Oh
not as
yeah.
good with English, but better with maths, yeah, myself. But that's cool. So, what was your childhood like? Is it did you have a
Mm,
good childhood, a hard childhood?
yeah, I would say
How did
probably
you?
hard. I had a teen. I was born to teen parents, so
Okay.
my mom was probably a bit young to get
Hmm.
started as a parent, and I think that kind of informed my childhood in many ways. But you can learn from those kind of things. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't, it definitely wasn't Leave It to Beaver at my house. Let's put it that way.
So, do you have children yourself?
I have one daughter, yeah.
Right, and how old were you when you first had your daughter?
Oh, I was 27, so I was a bit older.
Yeah,
Like I made a point to wait a little while and
yeah,
not
yeah,
follow in my own mother's footsteps. And so my daughter is now, uh, you know, pretty much grown
yeah,
and
yeah,
super
yeah.
smart. She was very much a studious child, really cared about school. And in that way, we were different. But I think I was able to sort of take my lived experience and convey to her the importance of really, focusing on her studies.
Sure. I know I was 33 when I had my first kid, my son, and
Hmm.
I just wasn't ready in your 20s. Like I think I've always wanted kids, and glad I've got them. And I think if I had them younger, would I have been ready? I don't think anyone's ever ready really when they have kids, right? And to think about our parents, like your parents were teens, late teens, right? When they had
Hmm.
kids, my
Yeah,
parents were early 20s. I think they were like 20 and 22. So those eras were a little bit different back then compared to now. Like now, it's a lot more difficult to have kids younger. And I can't really put my finger on what it is. I think things are just a lot more busy than before. Life was a little bit more simple before, I think.
sure.
But still, nonetheless, as time goes on, you do learn a few more things on how to raise kids. I guess it's never an easy task, right?
In theory, right? Yeah.
In theory.
I think that you can feel like you know a lot about how to raise kids until they actually put one in your arms, and then you're like, oh, okay, I really don't know shit. But you kind of
Yes.
figure you kind of figure it out as you go. Hope
Yeah,
for the
and you
best.
do make the mistakes, right? And you go, oh, people
Hmm.
might say, oh, you're being a good parent, but sometimes you don't feel that way. You feel, I'm not, I'm failing in these areas. But, as long as I guess they've got all their needs met, that's an important thing. But so did you finish high school?
No, I dropped out of high school actually, and then finished later. Like I said, I was
Um,
a real slacker back in those days.
did you drop out just because you didn't like school, or did you try and get a job, or?
Well, all of the above. Like I was just kind of a rebellious kid and not really focused on school. I didn't really feel like school was for me, and I didn't see the value in it at that time. So, like I don't really have regrets per se, but it was definitely not my smartest move. I'll put it that way.
Yes. If you could have gone back in time then to your young self, and
Oh gosh, I'd have been the
yeah,
biggest
and
nerd.
talk to yourself.
Hmm.
What would you
Yeah.
have, what would you have said to yourself to keep yourself in school? What would you have wanted to achieve by staying in school back then?
I think that when you're young, for me at least, you don't it's hard to see the future with a clear mind, right? Like you don't really think about the future, you think about the now. And so now that I'm here in the future, I can see that living too much in the now as a young person really sort of impacted my future and didn't make it impossible, but I definitely made the road harder for myself. I'll put it that way.
Sure, sure, I totally get that, and that's where like wisdom comes into it, right?
Right?
We don't want to listen to our elders and all this stuff, but really
Oh yeah,
they've got
they
the
don't know
wisdom to say
shit.
it. Like I'm going to kick my own
Right.
son's ass when that time comes too.
Hmm.
It's like, come on, boy, focus, because he's a little bit the same. He's pretty clever, but he doesn't want to apply himself. I can see he's only 6 at the moment, but I can still see those traits in him. He's sort of he'd rather cleverly try and work out a way how to get out of it than to apply himself. So,
Hmm.
but so yeah, so going back again though, if you say Mrs. Smitty did stay in school and you did apply yourself, what would you have tried to achieve differently that now at this
Oh
age
gosh.
that you wouldn't have had the chance to do
I
because of?
probably would have gone right to college. Like it's one of the things that I do feel like I probably missed out on, the college experience, like the kind you see on TV where you like live in the dorms and go to class and make friends and this and that. And so I didn't have that sort of experience. And I kind of feel like in that way, I sort of maybe cheated myself out of something that I might have enjoyed. Um, Looking back at those years in my own life, I was just kind of wandering, kicking around, not doing a whole lot of much. So yeah, I wish I would have lived those years differently. But again, I don't necessarily say that I regret those things because I definitely learned from them. But if I could go back and talk to the young Miss Smitty, she may have made some different choices.
Sure. I'm just going to shut this off. I thought I had this shut off
Hmm.
before. I'm just going to shut off for. Oh, no. Okay. Hang on. Sorry. I'm just. There we go.
No
There we go.
worries. Yeah.
Sorry, there's no one else to join. We're just going to have Mrs. Smitty and myself just talking today, running over Mrs. Smitty's life so everyone can get to know her a little bit better on a deeper level. And we do have a couple of bubbles here, so I'm just going to pop them real
Yeah,
quick.
let's hear them.
We've got EMC for life. How you doing, Em?
Oh yeah.
I was already a super fan. I don't know what it unsubscribed me from you, Rockstedi. Shout out to my man Rockstedi and my co-host of our show. I'm really proud of everything that he does on this app. He's quite an amazing human being, and I have mad respect for you. And shout out to Miss Smitty, the one, the only, who is just an amazing podcaster and so knowledgeable. And I love when we just get to chat and just go into our deep rabbit holes sometimes. Yes, I do. Shout out to these guys. If you don't follow, hit the follow. If you want to rock with them, hit the subscribe. If you can't, throw a couple chings into the donations. And above all else, clap up the show. Share the show because sharing is caring and caring is kind.
Oh, thanks,
Thank you
EMC.
very much, Em. Really appreciate you. She's been one of my oldest friends here on Stereo, and Em's kind of just helped me along the way with bits and pieces as well. So I really appreciate you, Em. I really appreciate you as a person. You're a beautiful person, and thanks for chiming in. We have another bubble, Mrs. Smitty. It's from Adorable Deplorable. Here we go.
Yo, 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 what it do, what it do? This is the gay conservative tuning into you. What is going on? Happy, I think it's still Wednesday. So happy Wednesday or Thursday, depending upon where you live. Anyways, Rocksteady, Mrs. Smitty, still much love for you, no matter what. This is Stereo's Adorable Deplorable in the house. Just dropping an initial message here to show y'all some love and support for bringing an amazing conversation here to the Stereo streets.
Hello.
Thanks, Adorable. Appreciate that very much. So I've just got fans only messages on at the moment, just so we don't get bombarded with people, because I want to. Otherwise, it distracts a little bit from our conversation, and then we can switch it on for the public towards the end of the podcast. But
Awesome. Great.
Mrs. Smitty, so how old were you when you left school then? What age were you?
Oh, 17.
17, and straight into the workforce. Did you take some time off
Straight
after
into the
school?
workforce. I worked at a little
What?
deli,
Okay,
making sandwiches, waiting tables. You
nice
know,
one.
I want to say I
Yeah.
made like $4 and something an hour. Woo.
This is your very first job, was it?
I worked a couple jobs while I was in high school. My first job was at a Dairy Queen, a little ice cream shop, and I started there when I was 15.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah.
And how long did you do the job for at making the sandwiches for after school? Was it a couple of years or a year or two or?
Oh yeah, for a while. It was a pretty good. I mean, as far as like dead end jobs go, it was a decent one. It was a fun little crew that I worked with. We had a good time. I was just a young girl, able to live on a shoestring budget, and I did. But it was fun, you know.
Were you still living with your folks at the time, or did you have your
Oh
own
no,
place?
on my own,
So you
like a
moved out
big girl.
of home straight away after school?
I did.
Nice one. So would I would claim that you seem like a very independent woman. So that was a move that you couldn't wait to make. Then I'm assuming.
Yeah, you could say that.
And so when you were working at the sandwich shop here, what did you aspire to be? What plan did you have in place, or was there none?
Oh, there was none. I mean, that was kind of the problem with the young me, is that I really didn't have much of a plan. So I was just kind of winging it at that point. And that went on for a couple of years. I was just kind of winging it. And then I was like, well, I hit my 20s and I was like, okay, I probably need to get my shit together a little bit. And so I went back and finished school, and I mean, like, I ended up I worked in the restaurant industry for quite a while as a waitress and a bartender. You can make a decent living as a bartender if you find the right sort of spot. So I bartended through most of my 20s.
Because over in America, like you guys work pretty strongly off tips, right? So I guess if
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you find the right bar, you get to build a rapport with the right clients, you're getting tips, and that's sort of a good little job to
Yeah,
have.
you make good
Yeah,
tips. Mm-hmm.
yeah. We don't really have that here that much. We
Ah,
people
okay.
do tip sometimes, but it's not like a thing that people must do. It's just you might tip a little bit after dinner or something at a restaurant, but it's not required to do so.
Got it.
Okay, so you're bartending through your 20s, making good little living, enough to get
Mm-hmm.
by for sure. And any love life happening along that way?
Well, nothing of note. A few, I mean, there were definitely some fellas, but nobody spectacular for sure. One serious relationship probably in my 20s. It lasted for a few years. And then we broke up, and it was not long after that that I met my daughter's father and got pregnant.
Okay. So you'd say that before you met your daughter's father, you had one serious relationship?
Yeah, one serious relationship, I would say.
One man that grabbed your heart that you fell in love with? It
Maybe
might be a different
maybe
love
two.
too. Maybe
Maybe
two?
two.
Okay.
Maybe
So
two.
tell me about your first heartbreak. That's what I want to know.
Oh gosh, my first like real heartbreak.
Real,
Yeah,
first real
I guess it would be
heartbreak.
that
Yeah.
guy. I couldn't even really identify why it didn't work out. And we're great friends today. He's happily married. I was happily married until my husband passed away. And he lives on the other side of the country, but we've always kept in touch. He's a great guy. It just was not, we just had different sort of directions for our lives, let's say.
Sure. So how old were you when you met this fella?
Oh, 20, 23, 22, 23, 24, somewhere. It's a
And you
fuzzy.
were with him
It's a
for
fuzzy 20s.
a little while?
About 3 years, yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to go into a little bit if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Mm-hmm.
don't mind. Yeah. So what was the relationship like? Was it he one of your? He was obviously one of your first loves, or maybe he wasn't your first love, but your
Yeah,
first
probably my
proper
first
heartbreak.
my first like real grown-up love,
Okay.
I would say.
Now you've had I'd say you have, people tend to have a few loves in their life, a few
Sure.
different types of love too. So I have myself, I've been engaged before my marriage this time and we never got married. I've had a couple of, I've got my first love and things like that. But there's really noticeably different loves that you have with different relationships. So you can, as much as you can be completely in love with one person one way, you can meet your life
Mm-hmm.
partner and have a completely different type of love again. Did you find that you experienced that with your other partners too before your husband?
I mean, differently. Um, so I would say, the the love that I had for this first guy, right? Uh, we were young, we were kids. We didn't have, I mean, at that point you don't have, kids in the equation or really like shared, like we rented a shitty little apartment. Like your lives become much more intertwined when you're in like an adult committed relationship than they are when you're kind of like young adults, right? So
Hmm.
we were both sort of figuring out what we wanted for our futures, and it just got to the point where the things that we wanted were kind of different,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been through something very similar myself. So, you were together for a few years. What was the relationship
Hmm.
like? I know that if I have to go back and elaborate on my first love, I think I was pretty young. It was the first person who broke my virginity too, but I stayed with her for like
Hmm.
4.5 years, and I was like 16, I think I was 15 or 16, and till about 20 years old or so, 19, 20, and that was kind of being the first love. It's you sort of like head over heels, and you kind of give all your heart because you don't know there's some sort of reservation you should keep for yourself. There's some sort of something that's so new about it and fresh that you're kind of like so dedicated. That was for my first love.
Right.
Um, and this is also where you make all the mistakes too. It's like, if there's jealousy that creeps up or anything like that, or things that you say that
Hmm.
you shouldn't have said, things that maybe there's some name calling if it gets nasty, or there's just ways that you act that you kind of learn and make the mistakes in that first. And I think that's why a lot of first love relationships don't tend to work out for the most part, because you've made all those mistakes, and then you learn and move on to your next partner where you can correct that from the start, you know. So with this gentleman that you lived with for a few years, what was that relationship like? Was it one of those ones where you were experiencing making mistakes and trying to correct them and fix them, and possibly contribute to not being together long term? Or
Yeah, I think that deep down we were both young, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I loved his family, and I still keep in touch with most of his family. I was immediately sort of smitten with the whole bunch of them, right? So I got very close to his whole family, and we moved in together really quickly, and lived together for the duration of our relationship, which, if you jump into something like that, can sort of breed its own problems. And yeah, I think it just kind of, it ran its course before we really called it. And part of the reason for that was because, we both really were close with each other's families. We had a very connected circle of friends. And so it becomes sort of difficult to imagine dismantling all of that, even if you know that you're not necessarily in the relationship that you should be in. So it probably should have lasted 2 years, not 3 years, but
right. So so you were holding on, as we all do, right? You hold on a little bit longer until it's a little bit more destructive, but at least it's to the point where you could still be friends. And maybe that didn't happen immediately after, but time passed.
Oh, it definitely didn't. It definitely didn't.
So it gets vicious, right? Because you still love each other. Just because you're not together, it doesn't mean the titles. I mean, the title might be cut, but the feelings aren't cut. And so there's like a mourning process that has to, like, unfold before you can really feel like you're not together, because you can say, right, we're broken up, and it doesn't mean that you're okay with the person seeing your ex-partner with somebody else. It's like, that hurts. So that all takes time to go through. But yeah, I did the same thing. You hold on, and it gets destructive a little bit. But yeah, I'm also one that's friends with a lot of my exes too. But,
yeah, I'm friends with virtually all of my exes.
Me too, except for like one, I think, and yeah, just because they're nuts. So I'm not friends with them. But okay, so let's get to that feeling part. If you're all right,
Yeah.
Running over it, the heartbreak. I've had my heartbreak, that's for sure, a couple of times. What was that like? Your first time you had your heartbreak?
It was hard. It was hard because, like I said, we had a very connected circle of friends. I was very close with his family, so it feels like a great loss, right? And we still saw each other socially because we had so many common friends. And so then that becomes difficult. The girl that he dated after me was a girl who had been a friend of mine at one time, so that's no fun.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
but she was sort of terrible to him, and it, it's wrong to say it was kind of an "I told you so" moment for me, but I fucking told you, so there you go.
Yeah, it's of course it's not
You
nice,
know,
and
no,
it
it all worked out for
it
both of us in the end.
yeah, but it feels a little nice when they do fail, because
Hmm.
it's like, haha, well,
Yeah,
see, there you
well,
go. You hurt me
right,
now. I hope you're hurting. It's a natural thing to feel. I mean, if I must be
sure.
honest with myself. But how long did your heartbreak last for? Well, my first one lasted a long time. I think it was like 9 months. I was really destroyed for.
Well,
How about yourself?
here's what's tricky, right? A couple months later, I started just sort of dating a little bit, and I ended up pregnant to a guy that I was just sort of newly dating. We had actually broken up by the time I found out I was pregnant. So um, the heartbreak didn't have a lot of time um, to sort of fester, because soon enough I was pregnant.
Right.
But
So
I was already broken up with that guy at the time, so I was single throughout the course of my pregnancy. We didn't get back together or anything like that.
right, this is your daughter now.
Hmm.
Yep. So that's like, okay, that's something different, right?
Hmm.
To not have to go through, well, you kind of didn't have time to go through the heartache, because then you've got a
Right,
baby on the way. All your
right,
attention's focused now on your child, right? And that
right.
love is more stronger than anything in the world. There's nothing that can top
Yeah.
that. It's a different love again. There's different love for your kids, to your parents, to your partners, but I got to say that love for your child is unconditional. I think it's
Hmm.
probably the only people in the world that it could be unconditional with is your own kids.
Well, and it's cool
Um,
because your child is a person that you get to know them from their very first day, right? So like I truly, like I've gotten to see every stage of her development and watch her grow into the person that she is. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing being a parent.
And how old is your daughter now?
She's 19.
19, perfect. Yeah, that's great. And look, my kid's he's 6.5. I've got a daughter who's 2.5. And the reason I sent you that little video before is just so I could put my face and
They're
family
so
to the
cute.
name of when we're talking, and
Yes.
it just makes people a little bit more real than just a cartoon avatar. So, yeah, they're my whole world, and me having my son first is just, you look at this child, this little blank canvas, and you just want to imprint your life and your learnings on them and guide them the right way and do everything possible for the best for their future. It doesn't
Absolutely.
turn out that way. They turn to little shits too, and you want to rip their head off. That happens.
Sometimes.
But yeah, but the love is, there's no question about how deep that goes for sure. So so here you are. You've freshly broken off. You're dealing with a broken heart. Probably, I guess maybe a rebound guy or something at this.
It
That
was a
next
rebound
partner's
guy
kind
for
of a
sure.
rebound.
Yep.
just to help you get over that feeling, right? And
Yep.
then now you've got a child on the way. So run me through that sort of thought process.
Oh, I mean, it was definitely not an ideal situation. But at that point, I was nearly 27, and I was like, I feel like I'm old enough to do this. I knew that I always wanted kids. And I just kind of felt like, well, I don't feel like I need a partner necessarily to be able to do this successfully. I feel like I can do this on my own. The guy and I had already sort of come to the conclusion that we were not a good fit. And so that was pretty much what I told him. Like, I don't want to date you, but I'm going to have this kid. So there's that.
How did he take that?
Well, not well in the beginning. It's not a great situation. He was younger than I was even, and not super keen on the idea of being a dad, but I definitely gave him sort of an open door to choose to be involved or not be involved.
Did he choose to be involved?
Not right away. He came around a little bit. I would say that he was never super involved, right? But that really is okay with me. And it's okay with her too.
Yeah. It's relative to the person, I guess, right? So it's okay with you because you made the decision to be that mother no matter what for your child, right?
Yeah. I mean, she's at the end of the day, she's my kid, right? Is pretty much how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And it's good that you gave the option for him to want to be in her life or not. I could never walk away like that. If I knew that there was my little flesh and blood out there, I'd have to be in their life no matter what. Doesn't mean I'd have to be with the person, but I'd have to be with my child, like, to visit my child and all that stuff. And I do know relationships of people out there who really happily have done that. Like, they've split and the kid has shared time with people easily and amicably. It's a good thing for the kid.
Yeah,
But
she's always sort of gone seamlessly back and forth. Like he and I are very different. His household is very different than mine, but she has grown up spending time with both of us. And it's fine. It works out well. It kind of gives her a more robust sort of experience because his home and his family and everything is very different than what she has in her, her most of the time home. So I think in some ways it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of she's a woman, so it's kind of growing. What's the word I'm looking for? It's just an independent strength behind her, right? Because she's she can be behind both parents, and she can like kind of learn the best from them instead of learning some of the worst things too. Two people that stay together that shouldn't be together, the kids tend to pick up the bad habits as well. And at least when they can flick back and forth a little bit.
Well, and you get two very different perspectives on the world,
absolutely.
Right? So, then you can sort of decide which one lines up more with your own worldview. So I always sort of encouraged her to have her own mind and think things through and come to her own decision. I've never been the kind of parent that was like, this is what we believe because she's her own person. So it was always, this is what I believe. And then you tell me what you think.
And her biological father, is he like that with her as well?
he's a little more
Forceful
uh
in his
yeah,
putting his okay.
this
Um,
is the way the world is. But
all right.
she's grown. So
Yeah. Now
okay.
she's 19. She's
Hmm.
a fully
Right.
grown woman.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So back to when you were pregnant. Then, so did you need the help of your folks at the time, or you had to have help from somebody, surely, right? Pregnancy isn't easy going
No,
through,
it's not.
and to be on your own completely, I don't know how a woman would do it, or a man, mind you. I'm just saying how a person would do it. That's a difficult thing. So, did you have any help or assistance along the way?
I mean, I had some friends and family around and stuff, but I was very much on my own. Like I mean, I was bartending. My uh I worked my last shift on a Tuesday and she was born that Friday. So I worked through my whole pregnancy.
Wow.
Um
Holy.
and I was humongous and miserable, and but we got it done. And when I brought her home, I had a C-section. And so I lived in a little house that had the only bathroom was up the stairs. And right after she was born, I couldn't even carry her up the stairs because she was too heavy, and you can't lift anything heavy right after you've had a C-section.
Yeah.
So I had a friend who came over every day to watch her so that I could like take a shower and stuff like that. Um, but for the most part, no, I was pretty much just it was just me and her.
So, can I jump back a little bit and ask
Hmm.
about your parents? What were your parents like? What's your relationship with your folks?
I get along really well with my mom now. My stepfather passed away in 2007, so he was around at that point. And like they were helpful in their own way. My mom's not really a baby person, so it's just not in her nature. This is where she and I are very different. Like if my daughter hopefully wouldn't get pregnant anytime soon. But like I am a much more nurturing kind of person than my own mother is, so I would be there to help probably more in a more like hands-on capacity.
Do you did you live close to your parents at the time? Were you like
Probably about
just
an hour away, 40 minutes, an
okay?
hour away.
And they were still supportive, just not in so much in a hands-on way.
Yeah, there it was more like a, go stuff kind of thing. But no,
Yeah.
not
My
really.
my wife's parents are a little bit like that. Her dad's
Hmm.
completely won't even look at the kids. He's not really around for my wife anyway.
Hmm.
But her mother's pretty good, but she hasn't really got that nurturing nature. Whereas my mother completely does. Like my kids will bowl us over to get to my mum's house to want to stay with her. So I know the difference in what you're talking about there.
Hmm.
Um, and so, how old were you when your mum met your stepdad? And how about your
Oh, little.
actual father? So, did you ever
Uh,
meet your father?
I mean, probably at some point. My biological father passed away when I was a little girl, like first grade. But I didn't really know him. So yeah, so like I didn't necessarily feel that loss. But my stepfather met my mom when I was probably 4 years old, 5 years old. So I grew up sort of with him as my dad.
Yep. And you knew him as nothing different
Yeah, I mean, I knew he
in,
wasn't
in
like
your
my
eyes?
my biological father, but he's definitely the one who raised me. We
Yeah.
definitely butted heads when I was younger, but we were very close in my adult life.
And were you closer to your mother or your stepfather when you were
I was
when you
closer to
were?
my dad.
Yeah. Okay. Um, that's interesting. So, and it's wonderful. That's really good. So my sister, she's on her second marriage, and the guy she's with now he's an amazing dude. He's really nice
Hmm.
guy. Whereas her first husband wasn't. They split for different reasons. Obviously,
Hmm.
your father passed away, but yeah, he's such a great dad to her previous kids, and then they've got their own as well. So
Yeah.
and that's a hard task for someone to step into a relationship and take on other people's kids sometimes.
Oh yeah, we were
Um,
brats too. We were little assholes. But but he was great, and he and I were very close. I have more of his sort of personality, even though I'm not biologically his. I think we were more similar than my mom and I were.
what did he do for a living?
He was a steel fabricator.
Okay. And was he a real people's person, or was he sort of more
Yeah, really
introverted, or?
really funny. He had like this big loud sort of laugh, which I've also been accused of having. And so he was very friendly, but sort of no nonsense, like he like a salt of the earth kind of guy. Like he could build anything, he'd fix anything. He loved the outdoors. I spent my childhood, hiking and camping and stuff like that. So, yeah, that was kind of how he was. He loved dogs. That's where I got my love of dogs from, my dad.
Yeah. And did he have any biological children?
Nope.
So you and your brothers, did you say you had two brothers?
Yeah, brother
Yep.
and a sister.
We're his
But
kids.
the
Brother, sister,
sister's a
sorry.
half sister. So my brother and I basically were like his kids.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, okay. And so, sounds like a pretty fun childhood with your dad, you know. What about your
hmm
mum? You weren't as close to her. Or did you get along with her easy as you were getting raised? You said you were close as you were older,
Oh
but
yeah,
you
we're
butt
close
heads.
now.
And when you were younger, you weren't so close.
No, not really. I think sometimes girls and their moms, it's a tricky thing. I don't even know how to describe it. Our personalities are very different. We just clashed a lot when we were younger. I don't even
Yeah.
know. I don't even know if I could identify why, but she drove me crazy.
Was she on your case all the time? Like, come on, like my wife's on my son's case all the time. I'm like, you got to
Oh
back
yeah.
up, leave him alone a little bit, you know? Yeah, just it's like she expects more out of him. Yeah, so
hmm
so do I sometimes when he's being slack, you know. But she's kind of her
I
approach is a
wonder.
little bit more stoic and harsh, you know. And
I
I'm
wonder
not
if my
like.
daughter would say that about me. Hmm.
Well, it's interesting. Sometimes the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? So,
Yeah.
you tend to see a lot of patterns form that are very similar to the way that your parents were and the way that they were raised and how they had you as kids, and you'll tend to form the same things. It tends to happen in a lot of cases, not all, but it's quite a common thing. So maybe ask her. She might feel or say the same thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Um,
I should ask her.
yeah. And so, what was your relationship with your mother and your other brother and sister?
Oh, my sister is a half sister, so we grew up in different households, but we share a lot of very similar traits. Like we are both from my father who passed away when I was very young, and she was even younger, obviously. And so we both grew up with like two parents that neither of them were connected. So her upbringing was very different than mine. Um, but we are similar in a lot of ways. She is kind of a wild woman compared to me. She's like she's like me without any, I don't know how I would put it. She's a wild one. She's great. She's like, married and doing well and everything now and a full-fledged adult, but she definitely had some wild years in her youth.
Are you pretty close with her still?
Yeah.
Yep. And what about your brother? What's he
Uh,
like? Is he
we'll probably skip that one. I'm
okay?
not close with my brother. I don't keep in touch with him.
Okay.
I haven't spoken to him in many years. There's a lot of
Okay.
stuff there. Yeah,
Sure. All right. No problem. We'll move on from that one.
sure.
So let's go back to yeah. You had your daughter. Sorry, can I ask your daughter's
hmm
name?
Sarah.
Sarah. So
Yeah.
you had Sarah 19 years ago. You're getting help from a friend that's helping you to have to bring Sarah upstairs to the bathroom because you couldn't carry because of the cesarean. Um,
hmm I'm back to work a
b-
month after my
wow.
C-section.
That
Yeah.
was my next question. And
Yep.
so how do you go for helping to care for her and stuff as a baby like that when you have to work?
Yeah. So here's how it kind of worked out. My family owned a restaurant that they had purchased when I was pregnant with my daughter. So by the time I gave birth to her, I was working for them as the general manager of their restaurant, right? And it was an old colonial era stagecoach stop that was converted into a restaurant and tavern. It's a really cool little place. And they lived there on the property. And my grandmother also lived there. So uh, she didn't live there when Sarah was a baby. She moved in later. But when Sarah was a baby, I would pick up my grandmother at her house, bring her along with me to work, 45 minutes away. Uh, she would watch my daughter while I worked, and then I would pack everything up, take them home, drop her off, go back home. So it was a lot. It was hard,
Yeah,
but we did it.
absolutely. And so Okay, let's ask about your
Yeah.
relationship with your grandmother.
Oh,
Was that
she was like, I was very close with her. She kind of raised us. Having a teen mom, um, she wasn't necessarily equipped to parent all the way through. And so when she was out sort of living her youth, my grandmother watched my brother and I.
so? Yeah, right. So you're super close with your grandmother.
I was, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And was your grandfather around at the time?
No, he died when I was pretty young.
Sorry, you cut out there. Sorry.
He died when I was pretty young. So no,
Oh, he
not
died when
really.
you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, well, that's wonderful to hear your grandmother's super nurturing as well, like that, because I know all my grandparents were, and they've all passed as well. But it's just
Hmm.
this other set of they say it takes a village to raise a child. Have you heard that saying before?
Hmm.
Yeah, and how true is it with the sort of help that you need around you? Like I'm really amazed at how you're up like a month later, back at work and doing things obviously for your daughter and to do what you need to do to stay independent, look after Sarah, financially and everything like that. And you had at least you had some help there from your grandmother to help with that. I know
Uh-huh.
that when we were over, I lived in Thailand. I lived in Thailand for like 6 years. I came back sort of last year just before COVID, and there's my wife is Thai, so when we lived over there, we didn't have any family support. So we had that same sort of feeling, even though we're close to our family, but my wife's family was like a 22-hour drive up north. So it wasn't that easily accessible. And my folks were in Australia. So when we had both of our kids at different times, of course, my mother-in-law would come over and stay with us for 5 or 6 months till we sort of
Hmm.
could get on our feet a little bit. And then she was, again, back off to her hometown. And you kind of feel so alone when you haven't got family members around, or we didn't really have friends around. Like we had friends over there, but no one that could look after our kids or anything. So my kids never got babysat until we came back to Australia for the first time. My son was like 5.5 before he got babysat for the first time ever, you know?
Hmm.
So to have that no support around you or little support around you, or to be on your own, all the different circumstances, but I kind of get a feel of what how tough that could have been, for you.
Oh
Obviously not
yeah.
to the full extent though. So kudos to you for that. So, okay, so next is that you met your partner that's, I'm sorry to say, passed away just recently.
Oh, there's a lot that comes in the middle there.
Okay,
So,
let's carry on there.
when after my father passed away in 2007, um, I stayed in Pennsylvania for another couple years, and then I decided it was getting close for my daughter to start school, and I knew the place where I grew up in Pennsylvania is kind of a small town. People have a real kind of small town mindset, and I'll leave it there. But I knew I didn't want her to grow up in such a small community. I wanted her to have more sort of opportunity, to have a more broad sort of worldview, and so I didn't want to stay in Pennsylvania. So we moved to Los Angeles when she was in kindergarten. And it was
Okay,
just the two of us. She had just turned 6. And yeah, yeah. She was in
there you go.
kindergarten.
So now you're experiencing just what I was just talking about, which is sort of over there on your own, right? Did you have many
Yep.
friends there or anything like that?
Nope. I knew one person, a guy.
Yeah.
And I dated him for a little while. I actually found a pretty good job out here, and so I seized the opportunity to move out here for sort of a new start for both of us. The relationship with the guy didn't work out, but the new town definitely did. And that guy and I are still very good friends, which is a theme with guys that I've dated. Um, but uh, yeah, but I fell immediately in love with California.
And that was what year was that? 2007, did you say?
Yeah, it was shortly after that.
Okay. So you've been there
2000,
for a while.
a while.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. Um, all right. So, what did you do for work there then? Like, how was it like on your own? Just like what I was trying to describe before. You're on your own now. So,
Yeah, with a
did you
kindergartner,
obviously went?
3,000
Yeah.
miles away from my family.
Unfamiliar
The
with the
nice
town.
thing, right?
Mm.
The nice thing about when your kids go to school is that, they're a large portion of their day is taken up by school. So it gives you the opportunity to work. And I worked for a wine and spirits company. in a sales job. So I traveled around and sold wine to restaurants and, wine shops and whatnot. And I was able to sort of tailor my work schedule to my parenting schedule for the most part. And then once school starts, they make friends and things like that. So it gives you a little bit of opportunity to, you know, to spend a few hours away from them once in a while. But it
Yeah,
was
I
hard.
found, yeah, it's totally difficult. I can completely
Yeah.
relate to that part now, except we had younger kids, so now the kids are a little bit older, or at that age, I should say, not older, but at this age, it's quite difficult because they can speak their mind a little bit. They want to be British as well, and it's
Hmm.
like it's hard at the best of times, you know. At
Yeah.
least this last 12 months, I can sometimes dump them at my folks' house and have a night off every now and
Hmm.
then. But yeah, you couldn't sort of do that at the start, and it's
No.
good with the school communities, right? It's surprising how nice some of the communities are with it's particularly like parents at the school where my son is. They know that we've come back to Australia, and we had businesses over in Thailand. We lost everything due to COVID, so I've had to financially start from scratch this last 18 months, right? And people are aware
Hmm.
of that, and they're so helpful. I can't believe how nice the help of the community extends for things like that. So I'm assuming that you sort of gained that over time at the school
Hmm.
when your daughter was young to help
And
out.
I am
And then,
definitely the kind of mom that I'm one of those involved parents. So I was always really involved at school and got to know a lot of the other families and stuff like that. But that's just kind of my personality.
to get involved
Uh,
in the school, as in
oh yeah.
helping out, or to
Uh-huh.
keep track of what's
Yeah.
going on with your kid.
Helping out,
Yeah,
like I was always involved in like the parents groups and stuff like that and
yeah,
helping,
wonderful.
doing what I could.
Okay, so just before you said there's a lot that happened in between.
Hmm.
What else happened after that?
So yeah, so we moved to California. We were here. I was here probably 5 years before I met my husband, and 4 years, 5 years, something like that. So then I met Jason, and Sarah was older, like she's an older kid, still in elementary school, but not a baby anymore.
Hmm.
And it was sort of, yeah, it was sort of instant with Jason that we both kind of knew that this was it. And so Jason and I moved in together, um, and then got married a couple years after, got engaged, got married, as you do.
So tell us how you met Jason.
We met online through one of those terrible dating apps. And yeah, it just from the very beginning, we had a great first date. Well, we had great conversation before that. We decided to meet. We met, we had a wonderful first date. At that time, I think we were both sort of like dating around, like as you do when you're on those dating apps. And so there
Hmm.
were 2 months between our first date and our second date. Um, but after that second date, it was kind of like all she wrote. And then we were kind of inseparable after that.
So what was your first date like? Where did he take you?
We
What
went
was
to a
that
little
like?
restaurant in Hollywood, and it was like a Monday night or something stupid like that. And I want to say my daughter was out of town visiting her father, because why else would I have been free on a Monday night? Um, but it was just really good. We just ate and had conversation, and the next thing I knew, the servers were putting up chairs all around us, and I was like, "Oh my God, have we stayed till closing time?" And then all of a sudden, the waitress and me got very uncomfortable, and I was like, "We have to go. We have to leave." So I kind of cut it short because then I was suddenly feeling like we had overstayed our welcome at this cute little restaurant. Um, but yeah, that was it. And then we stayed in touch after that. And after the second date, I think it was like our first date was like, I want to say in July, and then he met Sarah the beginning of September.
Was there a first kiss on the first date?
There was. There was.
And was
Uh-huh.
there fireworks?
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
So what was so long between the first date and the second date then? What kept that for 2 months
Well, I
from
think,
happening?
like I said, we had both been kind of like dating around on these apps, and we were both sort of like dating other people casually at the time that we first met. So I think we both kind of untangled those other connections before our second date. And then we were actually free to really begin dating. exclusively.
Was that a case of finding out that there's a lot of weirdos and assholes out there in between those dates going, this guy was actually pretty damn good, and
Oh no, I mean,
going
I
back
knew
like
from
that,
right
or
away that he was pretty damn good, but it just wasn't. I just wanted to make sure that the timing was like perfect for us to really, like dig in. And I think the same situation for him. I think he would say the same.
Yep. Okay. So so the second date onwards was pretty much exclusive to each other from there
Yep.
on,
Mm-hmm. It was
and
hot and heavy from there on out.
that's the way it should be, hot and heavy.
Yep.
I like that. So you were dating, and then how long was it before you sort of moved in together?
We met in July. We moved in together the following February. So we were dating for, 6 months, 7 months, something
Yep.
like that.
Yep. It's a good time, I think.
Yeah.
Get to know someone a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
how did your relationship grow from there? So you obviously end up getting married. I know that for a lot of relationships, there's like a 2-year mask that comes down after a couple of years. So you meet someone, of course, you put your best foot forward. You're out to dress and impress, and things go on. After about 2 years, that mask comes down. You really see that real person, and there's some things that you like more, and some that you don't quite like as much. But it doesn't mean that you wouldn't be with them, or some people do stop. Right? How was that?
Mm-hmm.
How was your relationship 2 years in?
I would say that it just got better as it went along. You get to know a person on a deeper level as time goes on. But at the end of the day, Jason and I were very compatible. I feel like he truly was the person who was meant for me. It just got better as time went on.
And
That's not to say that he never did any annoying things. Certainly he did sometimes do annoying things. And the funny thing about like when you lose someone who you love so much is that you stop remembering the annoying things that they did. So I couldn't tell, like he snored and it drove me crazy. And he used to leave his shoes sit in the living room when he came home and stuff like that. But nothing earth shattering.
Yeah, I have the same things told to me every day by my wife. So
Uh-huh.
I
Right.
totally get it. She makes a big deal sometimes, and I said sometimes like these things are just so minor that
Tiny,
you're getting
trivial.
stressed up about. What are you talking about? Come on.
Absolutely.
So tell us more about Jason. No, I don't know him.
Oh
I don't
gosh,
know much. I know he used to be on this app, and I
he was.
regretfully didn't get to cross paths. And so tell me about Mr. Smitty.
Oh gosh. So he was actually on Stereo before I was. He was the CEO of a podcast network called Starburns Audio, and they were mostly comedy podcasts. So he's on Stereo as Starburns Audio. And he was here first and told me, like, I think you'd really like it. You should download the app. And I do a little true crime podcast called Murder Minute. And he's like, you could come on. Nobody's really talking about true crime. And at the time when I got here, nobody really was. So I came on and started talking about true crime, and I caught the stereo bug big time. And we did talks together and stuff like that. I was actually just listening to one recently that I did with Jason. The thing about Jason, gosh, how do you even? He was funny, hilarious, like super funny. He had this big giant laugh. He was just sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
Yeah, he was just. He was sorry.
It's okay. Take your time. It's not a problem. He sounds like he was an amazing man from what I've heard so far from some people on the streets, and I have heard some really good things about him. So just while you take a minute there, Mrs. Smitty, we'll just pop the bubble from EMC that's come through from a lot earlier. This was about half an hour ago. So EMC, here we go.
I have a question for Miss Smitty. Since we're talking about relationships, they say that you only fall in love really 3 times in a lifetime. The first love is the love that is the ideal love, your first love, your puppy love. The second love is the hard one, the one with the lies and manipulation that kind of breaks us down as people. And then the third time is the one that is the one to last. and the one that makes us view the idea of love different. Has that held true to you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think absolutely true. Um,
I
you
I'd
know,
agree with that too. Yeah.
yeah, I
Except
think
mine was
that's
the fourth, so
absolutely true.
I think it's pretty close on
Yeah,
par.
you know, results may vary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
s- Everybody sort
Um.
of picks it up at their own pace. No, I mean,
Sure.
like it's still obviously very hard to talk about,
Of
because it
course. Yeah.
hasn't
And
been very long.
yeah.
Um, but he was great. I mean, like I don't even know how to really put it into words. He was amazing.
Um. From what I've heard on the Stereo Streets bits and pieces, not a great detail. He sounded like a larger than life person. He was someone who
Very much so.
seemed to be really dedicated in the things he was doing. I never, again, I regretfully didn't get to cross paths with him on Stereo. I think I only came on in January, and I was just finding my feet around February or something like that. And so I just only just recently come across you as well, Mrs. Smitty. But
Hmm.
yeah, I do wish I did get that chance to speak to him. But yeah, I don't know how much you want to go into it or not. I don't want to get you emotionally upset or anything like that. But I did want to try and find a little bit more about him and his life and how you guys were together. So it's up to you how much you want to elaborate or not completely. Okay, so
I
whatever you're
mean,
comfortable with.
yeah, he was just like Jason and I were true partners. I think that when you meet the right person, it just kind of works and works really well. And that was definitely the case with us. It just, I think that over the past 5 months, since we've lost him, it makes you really appreciate just how fun and easy things were with him.
Yeah. And I don't want to go into the details of his
Sure.
passing too much, except for just was it a sudden thing or was it something that was
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, that's a hard thing. So as
Hmm.
not to take away from what's happened to you at all, I just
Hmm.
recently had a heart attack like 6 weeks ago.
Hmm.
I'm 40 and it was totally unexpected, of course, right? And I didn't even think I was having a heart attack. I was having a heart attack for 2 days, and
Wow.
finally got told to go to the hospital. And when I went there, they told me I had a heart attack. I was with my dad at the time. He took me in, and I was like, "Oh shit, I had a heart attack," thinking I was a bit of a Viking. And then it hit me. It hit me. My family, my wife, my kids. If I wasn't here, what would they do? My wife's brand new into the country. My kids are so young; they would have grown up without their father. And I just broke down. I absolutely broke down, just knowing that I might not have been there at the time. And for 3 or 4 days after that, um, if I'd woke up in the middle of the night, literally the first thing to mind was, I'm still here. I'm just like, well, I look around the
Hmm.
room, I'm still here. And even I remember my dad driving me back at night, and the window was down. It was, it's been winter here, but it was a warmish sort of night. And there wasn't many cars on the road. So I'm just looking at everything passing, thinking like, I don't know, it's kind of life changing where you just think I wouldn't be just witnessing driving down the street anymore, and it was a tough
Right.
thing. So that was a pretty recent thing for you, Mrs. Smitty, right? So 5 months ago, you said. And
Hmm.
how long were you where,
So
Mrs. Smitty, before this happened?
I'm kind of living the opposite of that. Every day I wake up and it's sorry.
That's okay. Just going to give Mrs. Smitty a moment there. Um,
Ooh, sorry.
yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. Uh, yeah, I don't know whether I should continue with. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good time to express, the care and love and the life of Mr. Smitty and yourself, but at the same time, I don't want to make you upset. So
Sure.
I'm trying to be sensitive
Sorry.
around the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
No, do not apologise. It's completely understandable, and it's beautiful that obviously the care factor. So,
Hmm.
um, you were with Mr. Smitty how many years before he did pass?
Almost 8 years.
Almost 8 years.
Yeah.
And let's just skip past the passing a little bit. And from
Yeah.
then until now, how's your life been? I mean, of
Oh,
course, it's a tough road, right?
horrible. Yep. Pretty terrible.
How? Yeah, I imagine you've got a lot of support around you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. I
Um,
do.
and so I see you take to the stereo streets a bit. I know that for stereo for myself, we had a bit of a tough trot as a family last year. Obviously, we lost financially, we lost everything. I had to sort of revert. I was like running businesses. I was like, I'm good with people and speaking to people and putting teams together and building their morale. but then all that was wiped away from me, and I'd come back through COVID here in Australia, and it's like I had to get back on the tools doing handyman work using my hands. I haven't done that for over a decade, and that was kind of tough. So it would consume all of the hours in the day for me. I would, I didn't get to spend as much family time, and my son was used to me always being around. I'd drop him off at school, pick him up over in Thailand, but over here it's like now Dad's going to work all day. He felt something was wrong because he wasn't used to it, which is a normal thing. And I let my health lack. Financially, I couldn't get back ahead. I was exhausted, physically exhausted, and so mentally I started to feel just down, not depressed. I've been depressed before. I had a lot of help from a mentor of mine to help me out of that. So I know there's a peg I put there so I never go back into that dark cave. But I noticed when the load was too much on my shoulders, and that's kind of the time I found stereo. And stereo really, really opened up this door for me in a social manner that I was missing from catching up with friends. I still could have done that here, but you don't feel like going out when you're feeling so exhausted and tired. And you make these relationships on stereo. And it's been such a life changer for me in a massive way.
Oh
Now I
yeah.
can only imagine something that you've gone through. You've got a huge following on here. You have a lot of people around here on stereo, particularly in support. Have you utilized stereo as that outlet for you to sort of keep distracted, find the support, move on for all those sort of mental issues that you might be trying to carry from this? Have you found that to be a huge help, or is it something that's you know
Thank you, Dr. Ludspell. What I will say is this, that Jason and I were both a big part of the community here. And so a lot of people here also knew Jason. And so everybody knew what had happened. And the support that I have gotten from the people I've met has really gotten me through this time in my life. And I'll probably get emotional again, but I really don't know what I would have done without the people that I've met here. And it's really meant a lot to me. More than I could ever say. I'm sorry, I'm going to go on mute one more time.
That's okay. You do that. I'm just going to back up what you say there. There are a lot of beautiful people on stereo, and this is the whole point of this series that I want to do for interviewing people on stereo, conversations with other people. Is just finding out about the life of people like Mrs. Smitty and others on stereo, to show that we're not all just cartoon avatar. Even though it's a great feature of stereo, it's perfect. Sometimes it gets a little bit lost with the trolling and things like that online, that we're not seeing the real person behind the avatar. So it's been so far a great experience of you sharing your life with us, Mrs. Smitty. I really do appreciate it. We still got a little bit to go, but so far, thank you.
Yeah,
And so
sorry, you
far,
kind of
I'm
got
sorry
more
if I've
than you
made you
bargained
upset.
for
I
on
really
this one.
apologize. No, that's fine. It's totally fine. I appreciate you sharing this.
Yeah.
It's really great. Okay, so time is on. We do have a quick bubble here. Let's pop that straight away.
Sure.
So we've got EMC for life.
Miss Smitty, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I didn't get to meet Jason either, and all I've ever heard was good and amazing things about him. I met you very shortly after, and I am glad I get to call you a friend.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I understand that feeling of lost as well, with someone you're so close to who made your life absolutely better. I appreciate you, Miss Smitty, for being in this community and the joy you bring for this community. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, EMC. Honestly, I don't know what I would do without you guys.
Isn't it just bizarre to think that some of the relationships that we've created on stereo through simply talking, right, are so deep and meaningful because we're not taking each other by face value. It's all words, and we're connecting in beyond that, beyond face value, right? So there's some friends on here that I don't really know their real names. I respectfully won't ask, or we've never met in real life. It's harder for me in Australia to meet all my sort of American friends over that I've made on this app. And there was a stage I went through several months ago. I'm like, God damn it, I don't know what their real name is or what they really look like or anything like that. But the more I put thought into it over that couple of weeks, I was like, these friends are possibly more I'm connected more truly than my friends in person. We spend all of our time online. We're talking all the time. If I'm not talking with them, I'm listening to them. And
Mm-hmm.
I understand them so much. We've got a little group that we can chat on and stay connected with. And it's like we're so close, like a family. And I've said this to my friends and my brother, my little brother particularly, he's saying, God, they're just internet people. It's like, no, they're not just internet people. You just don't understand. And people don't really understand unless they're on here and they've created those relationships, what it's like. I've literally made friends around the world, as you have, from this app, and it's been a wonderful way to connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so forever grateful to have that from Stereo.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah, it's just,
Absolutely.
it's hard to explain to the average person, right, who's not on social auditory social, because they just don't, it seems like a chat room or something that you're typing, and it's not the case. So
Mm-hmm. It truly
yeah,
is a community that they've built here. And it's such a cool thing to be a part of. And I don't even, yeah, I really can't imagine how I would have gotten through the past 5 months. What it would have been like without all of you people here, honestly.
I can hear the heart behind what you said just there. So okay, so above and beyond. So what's next for Mrs. Smitty? What's the
Oh,
future
that's a
plans here?
great question. That's a great question. That I don't really know the answer to right now. Yeah, I mean, my life is a series of big unknowns right now. So, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I can
Okay.
say like, I have some talks coming up this week, but as far as like where my life will be a year from now, 6 months from now,
Well, what's your 5-year plan?
gosh. I at this point, I really don't have one. I'm sort of
Okay.
like, it's like the funny thing about all of this is that you go from having everything sort of planned out, or at least an idea of what everything will be like, and then all of a sudden, one day it's like all of the things that you expected your life to be um, are not going to be. So, yeah. Sorry, you really did get more than you bargained for this one.
I'm
You
sorry.
should have started. It's okay. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Okay, so all right, let's change the
yeah, I
direction
don't
of the
really
show.
know.
So what I was
Uh-huh.
going to do is I want to have this talk and get everyone to learn and know, who Mrs. Smitty really is, like
Yeah, yeah.
you and your life, right? And
You
so
saw it.
I kept those. That's it. No, and I really appreciate you sharing what you shared so far. I've kept the comments off to fans only at the moment, so we could have like a one-on-one talk. Now I want to sort of
Sure.
open it up to the people. If anyone has any questions, would you be okay with that? If people want to ask you some
Absolutely.
questions?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then we can finish off the show after, when everyone's sort of finished their questions.
Cool.
So let me do that right now. But I'll pop a bubble in the
Awesome.
meantime. We've got
Cool.
Rocstedi, and hey, have you heard? You know who Rocstedi is, Mrs. Smitty?
I'm not sure.
Okay, we're about to play it.
Yeah.
I do a really good impersonation of Miss Rocstedi. She's from my
Ooh, let's
hometown in
hear it.
Perth. She's one of the most recognisable voices on stereo. So she'll come in.
So
She go,
probably I do one too.
"Hi guys, how are you? I'm Lisa, and I'm coming to say hi." So here we go. We're going to hear her voice, Miss Lisa.
Good afternoon, Rock.
Yes.
How are you? And hey, Mrs. Smitty, how's it going?
Hello.
Whoops, I accidentally switched that back and forth to superfans. I was trying to take the messages off. Let me just check that I got that right. Yes, I did. Okay, anyone listening now, you can actually ask Mrs. Smitty a question that's open to the public now. So if anyone wants to ask any questions, feel free to do so. And we'll just wait a second for that. But
Awesome.
yeah, and you've been doing this Murder Minute podcast for a while then.
Since 2018. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It actually started out as an app. There's an app that you can get for your phone called Murder Minute that delivers true crime stories to your inbox every day. And then the Murder Minute podcast grew from that.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
how often do you do those podcasts? Because you do it on here. I've caught you, I think, once a week, right?
Mm-hmm. The podcast comes out once a week
Yeah.
on Mondays. And then on Tuesdays, I do sort of a live discussion show with Thotty Scotty where we go over the week's episode and discuss the cases that I've covered. So we took a little break after everything happened, but we have been back with live episodes for the month of August. So we're about a month in now.
And what other set shows do you do per week? Scheduled shows? Is it just
Oh,
those two a set, and then you do any old talk, or?
yeah, back in the day, I used to do, gosh, tons of shows. But now I do the Stereo Family Feud on Saturday nights, hosted by Millie J. Green, Millie J. Harvey, and that's just Family Feud. We compete against each other, and yeah, I do that on Saturdays, and then just randomly shows that if people invite me, and sometimes I'll hop up on if I'm listening to something and I feel like I can contribute in a meaningful way. But
Lovely.
definitely less than I used to.
Yeah, I was on more myself before. I found there's less people on stereo to what there was before. It was kind of easy to drop in and do a roulette and find someone to talk to, just like this. It's a little bit more sparse than before. So now I'm like, all right, I want to set up some shows with specific people I want to talk to, and yeah, just get people to understand and know each other more. So. Last chances to ask Mrs. Smitty any questions you might want to from the listeners. And Mrs. Smitty, in the meantime, here we go, a question here. Hang on. Here we go.
Sure.
It's EMC for Life.
Shout out to Family Feud, where I have
Oh, yeah.
realigned my loyalties to Miss Smitty. The last time I did not, and you know what? They just used me and my heart.
That's right.
So shout out to the Red Gang, 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 gang. I ain't never going back. It's Red Gang for life.
Next time we're going to do an East Coast versus West Coast edition. So you'll be stuck with me as a fellow West Coaster.
All right. As we're getting towards the end of the show, I just wanted to ask if you want to play a little game real quick. It's 20 questions in 30 seconds. You got to answer them as quick as possible. Are you up for that?
Ooh, all right. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'm gonna set my phone here.
Okay.
For a timer, and let's go here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay,
let's do this. Now, have your parents ever seen you naked as an adult?
No.
Who would you turn gay for?
Ooh. Oh gosh. That's a hard one. I don't know. Pass. I'll come back to it.
Okay. Do you prefer dad bods or chiseled six packs?
Dad bods.
How long does it take you to get ready before heading out the door?
20 minutes.
Have you ever considered plastic surgery? And if you have, for what?
No.
Okay. Have you ever seriously injured anyone before?
No.
Have you ever been arrested?
Yes.
Would you ever consider watching taboo porn?
Yeah, I would consider, sure.
If you wanted to kill me, how would you do it?
Ooh, poisoning.
Poisoning. Who would you pay, or what would you pay for the date on a night if you just met someone?
Oh, yeah.
What's one reason you've dumped a partner in the past?
Because they cheated.
Okay. What's the most embarrassing moment that's ever happened to you?
Ooh, that would take some time to think about. I peed my pants once while I was pregnant.
Okay.
You can barely help it.
If you could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
Gosh. War.
Well,
religion.
If you held a world record, what would it likely be for?
Ooh, talking too much.
Talking too much. I think, is this the seconds? Oh, I think there's time up, but I'm going to go. There's only a couple left because I put 30 minutes, not 30 seconds. Whoops.
Oh.
If you could be any insect in the world, what would you be?
A praying mantis.
Okay. If you could go back to school for 1 year, which grade would you choose?
Ooh. 4th.
4th grade. Why is that?
I don't know. It was just fun. Easy.
Just fun.
Not a care in the world.
We've got a couple more questions before we do shut off the show.
Sure.
So we got MC Funk. He's a good friend of mine, MC Funk. So
cool.
I'm not sure if you met him before, but let's see what he's got to say.
Yes, I don't have a question, but just I've been sitting here listening to the whole thing, and this is a great show. Solid content here, Miss Smitty. I just want to say thank you. Opening up, sharing everything tonight, and I feel like I really get to know you here. So, thank you for that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate you
Sorry
telling
for
me
being
that.
kind of a downer.
It's not a
It's just
downer
the
at all.
vibe around here lately. Okay.
No, it's a touching story. I'm pretty sure everyone could feel the heartfelt message behind what you're doing. So there's no reason to apologise.
Okay, good stuff.
Okay, we got Worm, another legend of a guy.
Worm.
I love Worm. Here we go.
Me too.
Hey, yo, what up to my guy Rocstedi and what's going on, Mrs. Smitty? Great interview skills rock. And Mrs. Smitty, thanks for being so open. Definitely, my heart goes out to you. And I just want to let you know you got all the love and support in the world from me, your boy. We're a million. And I think that the future is bright. I think that sometimes we go through hard things so that we can appreciate the good times. And just want to let both of you know I got your back. It's your boy, We're a Million.
Thanks, Worm.
Thanks, Worm, my brother. Thank you very much. We got EMC for life here again. Here we go.
All right, I have a question after those questions. Miss
Yeah.
Smitty, what did you get arrested for?
Oh, that's a clubhouse story.
Scandalous.
You must elaborate.
Okay, it's so stupid. I got arrested for stealing lawn ornaments when I was 18 with a bunch of friends. It's so
Were
stupid.
they gnomes?
There
Garden
were
gnomes?
gnomes, indeed. There were gnomes. Other things. They actually call that receiving stolen property, and you can get in trouble for it. But yeah, we were just being stupid kids. But yeah,
What was
I have been
any penalties
arrested
from that?
indeed. Oh yeah, like community service fines, much more than
Wow.
you would expect for stealing somebody's fucking lawn gnome. But yeah, I learned my lesson. Crime doesn't pay.
No, it does not, unless you were selling those
Mm-mm.
garden gnomes for a profit.
No.
So, all right, Mr. Smitty, we're going to wrap it up for this
Mhm.
show. So it's not too long-winded or anything. It's nice and I think just lovely for the story that you told. I can't thank you enough for actually, accepting the invite to come and talk. It's I really do appreciate it. It was really important for me to have you as my first guest on this series. So I want to do this as frequently as I can. I kind of want to attach this to my sort of theme for Rocstedi here on Stereo. So to end that, before we do have a question, I do want to find out before I forget. You've got to throw another checkmark person to be interviewed under the bus, someone that you know. So who do you choose that
Ooh.
to be?
I mean, I think that the next logical choice would be Thoughty Scotty, right?
Thotty Scotty.
We all want to
Okay,
know
so
more about Scotty.
okay, so I'm gonna reach out to Thotty Scotty. If I don't have any luck, I'm gonna ask if you could help with that, and we'll bring him up in the hot box, and we'll
Perfect.
find out more about Thotty Scotty and his life in the next day or two if he's available to talk. So we do
Perfect.
have a question to finalise this off. We've got Lord Shamik. Here we go.
Oh, Lord Shamik.
Good evening, Rocksteady. Miss Smitty, what it do? Let me ask you a question. Since
Yeah.
you're poisoning people, where you putting the poison? Questions.
Well, if you listen to this week's episode of the Murder Minute podcast, I covered the story of a woman named Lynn Turner who poisoned her husband with ethylene glycol with antifreeze, and got away with it, and then started dating another guy and also poisoned him the same way with antifreeze, which is has a sweet taste and is odorless. So she put it in soup, jello, sweet tea, things like that. Fed it to them, and they died.
Wow. Remind me never to go to dinner with you if I come over to the United States. We're just going to go
Yeah,
for a drink, no dinner,
no
okay?
jello, no jello for sure.
Now that you said you'd kill me for that, yeah, I'm a little
So
concerned.
I just spoke about it this week on the podcast. It's an interesting story.
I will go back and listen to that.
Yeah.
I've been trying to catch you online as much as possible the last month or so. I've just sort of come to my attention, Mrs. Smitty. So I want to just learn a bit more about you, which is what spawned me to want to do this episode first with you.
Yeah,
so,
I have a show
Scotty,
coming
Scotty.
up. I have a talk coming up on Friday with Scotty and Sarah that will be about notable Supreme Court cases in American history. So that should be an interesting one. Maybe not as interesting for someone who is not American, but
No, it still is. I still like the crime stories that go on there and the court system. That's fine. It's just that my issue trying to catch the time zone sometimes. So obviously I'm like 15 hours ahead of you. So
okay, yeah.
sometimes I'm sleeping when other podcasts are on, and then you go on and there's someone else that you're listening to when you're awake, and then you try and do your own. So it's really hard to catch up sometimes. I used to be hugely into podcasts before stereo, listening to podcasts. I think I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan, but I also really like the Sammy the Bull Gravano podcast. If you like murder sort of minutes, have you been listening to his at all?
No, I haven't.
They are
But that'd be interesting.
fascinating. Absolutely. I'm going to send you some links.
Yeah, please do.
He tells a lot of little short 10 to 20 minute stories on YouTube, sort of in the lead up to his podcast. But then he's got one season of season one's podcast. He's just started season 2. And he'll talk in great detail about the first time he whacked somebody, what it was like, and how the blood pooled, and how he was quite emotionless for it, and things like that. And another one is he talks about the hit on Paul Castellano, how they lined that up, and I won't spoil it for you. I'll just send you the links. It really leaves you wanting more every time it finishes. So
okay.
yeah, it's really, really I'm really into it. And they've got a I don't know if you know Valuetainment, that podcast with Patrick. I forget his last name now. But he did an interview on Michael Franzese and Sammy the Bull Gravano and a few other gangsters, and he actually got them to sit down for the first sit down ever captured on camera by made men ever before, and that's been released in 5 or 6 weeks' time. And apparently the two of them, because they don't like each other, they were head to head, mafia style, at this table, talking just themselves for 16 hours alone of content without anyone else getting involved. So it's a pretty heavy talk. They talk about the assassination of JFK. They talk about a whole lot of things. So that'll be interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, send me the link. I'd check that out for sure.
100% I will, straight after this podcast.
Awesome.
Mrs. Smitty, thank you for sharing your life with us. That was wonderful. Again, I appreciate it so much, and I'm looking forward to talking to you more on the stereo streets.
Yeah, thank you again. This has been fun.
God bless you very much.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Okay, bye.